Our family life revolved around surfing. It was geared in one direction, 100% surfing, with the only leftover space reserved for church, Christianity. And of those things, surfing was always the thing that took precedence. So if it was between a solid south swell and Sunday at church, the south swell always won out. But there was this understanding too that the way of experiencing surfing was sort of the church of the open sky, if you will. My dad swam out with me and he pushed me into a wave, and it was my first green water wave. And I stood up, and that feeling of stoke, just from toes all the way to the tips of my hair, it just exploded through my body. That's when I was like, that's it, no more bodyboarding, no more playing, I am going to surf. And when I was 8 years old, I did my very first contest. It was a parent-child event, so it was my dad and I actually entered into the water. It was the longest 15 minutes of my entire life. From that point forward, kind of the natural progression of just kind of following my parents into competition became something that I did. And it was always supposed to be fun, but it was always taken quite seriously. My mom competed, my dad competed, so we were always at the beach, we were always involved with other families, and we were always interacting sort of with this crew of traveling surfers. Not sure when it started, but the feeling of my self-worth as a human being became attached to how well I performed in the contests. I think because we competed so often, it was a way to measure my self-worth against my peers. And then competing against my mom, for instance, was a little bit of a tense experience because she was excelling. We always said first, second, first, because we always wanted to get first and second, but I always wanted to reach a point where I could actually beat her because she was the benchmark for me in my life. Growing up, I didn't have any other role models as far as women were concerned in the surfing world, except for my mom. Externally, the family, my nuclear family, to everybody, looked perfect. And the truth of the matter was there were some deep rumblings that I was viscerally aware of, but not consciously aware of. When my parents separated, those three things that had held us together, the fundamental, really simple, small little building blocks, which was family, religion, and surfing, completely disintegrated. Because religion was such an intricately tied part of that story, what it did was it opened up room for doubt. I never want to be hurt this bad again. So I need to figure out all of the potential ways that I could possibly be blindsided again, starting with religion. In the midst of all of this now, I've started to go on tour. And I've entered into an environment that is completely misogynistic, sexist, competitive. There's no intimate connection, there's no empathy. All there is get what you can, fuck everybody else, and do what you need to get there. With judges, sponsors, whatever. So I'm a completely broken, fragmented, haven't dealt with any of my emotional stuff type of person walking into this environment, and it imploded. Not only that, but I'm starting to suspect that I might actually be what's wrong with women surfing. In women's surfing, the desire to be the best female surfer is so intimately tied to how you come off to other people. You need to establish, number one, that you're heterosexual. So you need to be attractive to the men that are on tour. You need to be able to elicit responses from them. In order for me to get the sponsors and to retain the sponsors, I was told, you need to lose weight, smile, all these different things that you have to kind of be as the quintessential California girl, that I was having to try to construct this sort of mask to try to present if I wanted to continue to go in that direction. So all the while I'm like dying inside, literally. Out of that chaos, I walked and said, I'm done. I don't want to have anything to do with surfing. I don't want to have anything to do with my family. I don't want to have anything to do with my old life. So I packed up my shit and moved to San Francisco. That's when I sought anonymity. I wanted to see if there was somebody inside of me that I had never met, because the life that I was trying to walk away from was really filled with a lot of pain. I went from not surfing for a year in San Francisco to going 10 days later, surfing for a few days in between, and got second place at the very first Women's World Longboard Championship. And then the next year after that I won, and then I won again, and then all of the same old stuff that had to do with surfing, it all came back. So within this very short period of time, literally 3 years of having, all right, that's it, I'm done, to winning 2 world titles and then saying, that's it, I'm done again. After all of that kind of phase, and I was going in and out of doing activist work, I met Maria, my lovely wife of now 9 years now. That's when I really started to sink into love. And that was such a healing place for me. So now, as I'm coming out of all of this kind of past trauma into love, one of the things that I had to do was move through competition again. So what if I move through competition, having healed, knowing who I am, being solid, what can I accomplish now? So I started to practice, got involved with competition again, and within 4 years, I'd won my 3rd world title. And this time it was an ASP-rated world title. And I did it all intentionally without a sponsor because I wanted this one to be mine. I had worked through all my expectations, I had worked through all of it. So I felt like this was purely mine, I could really own this. And that's what this moment was. This was my claiming something that I had done in surfing for myself. I stood up on stage, and as I was raising the trophy, I'm thinking, that's it? And then the announcement came that the very next Women's World Championship was going to be held in China. All expenses paid by the Chinese government. I was handed the opportunity by the ASP to stand for human rights and women's rights, all packaged up, where I could actually use my trophy as a platform to communicate some core beliefs about my stance in life, but also as a call out to the surf industry, which had been moving into Asia, the Asian market, and exploiting really low-cost labor. You're using slave labor, you're not paying attention to the human rights of the people that are making your clothes, and the understanding as a woman, as a surf feminist, that 80% of the world's garment workers are women. You cannot disconnect labor rights from women's rights, because the two are completely intermingled. So that's kind of in that direction with taking on the industry on that side of things is deeply connected to the work that I'm doing in regard to gender. So I took that opportunity to say, I'm not going. I'm going to come out both as an activist and as a lesbian surfer. I'm going to use this platform that I have. I'm going to use the world title that I just earned by myself, for myself, and I'm going to use it for exactly what I want to use it for. Surfers we ride this middle space and we're like, well, let's just tweak it just a little bit. And then you're actually creating a novel form of resistance that is actually creating a new way of being in the world that reimagines what it means to be a radical human being. And by radical human being, it means somebody who actually cares for the environment that they're with and the people that they're with. Surfing is simple, but it has a tremendous amount of subversion that exists within it. It always has. Because I was so deeply entrenched in this fundamentalist, like, we are saved, you are not, sort of extreme mentality, that having moved from that experience, I have an understanding of what it feels like to have an extreme position, and then to have been shifted so far to the other side, and to be able to find some compassion for not only other people who hold extreme positions, but also in a way have gone through the process of finding compassion for my own fundamentalist attitude at a certain point in my life, my own rigid opinions, and the realization that rigidity doesn't actually perpetuate any sort of open-mindedness or change. Still working on that, because I'm pretty intolerant of intolerance. But at the end of the day, I was also at one point a very intolerant person. And that's something that I've had to acknowledge and heal.